Hi, I'm Tom Laskowski. I'm the Director of Midwest Native Skills, and here we are back on our Thursday live streaming on Facebook. Welcome. If you're new to our live streaming, I just want to welcome you. We're here every other Thursday with some topics. Tonight's topic is going to be water purification. I have some facts. I want to dispel some myths about water purification, and I'd be happy to take any of your questions about water purification. Water's quite important. If you remember rules of 3 about how long you can go without air, without shelter and all that, water comes in there. You can go 3 days without water. So if we don't have water, we'll pretty much be dead in about 3 days, or liquids of that sort. So water's real important to keep all of us alive. So we're going to be talking about ways to purify water, and of course you're going to need to purify it. So we're going to be talking about what's going to get us sick, how to prevent us from getting sick, how to purify it, and go from there. If you have any questions, we'd like to know who's there, so you can just type in if you're watching. And if you have any questions about water purifications, whether it be natural water purification or about water purifiers or whatever, please just type it in, and Cheryl will tell me who's out there, and we'll give you a shout out and we'll answer your questions.
So Wendy and Terry are on.
Hi Terry, Wendy. Thanks for joining us. Like I said, if you have any questions about water purification, just write them in. Where shall I start? I always say I have 2 presentations on water purification, my long presentation and my short presentation. I'll start out with my short presentation. If you want to purify water, boil it. End of presentation. Are there any questions? So, with that little joke, but that's true. All you have to do is boil water, and that will kill everything that's going to be hurting you. It will purify the water. Just bring it to a full rolling boil. Now, the question comes up, well, how long do you boil it? And I've read in books anywhere from a minute to 5 minutes and all that. Well, let's talk a little bit about water pasteurization. The word pasteurization, all that means is you've killed all the bugs or all the things in the water that could get you sick. So, I have a chart here that talk about water pasteurization temperatures. And it varies with temperature. Got a good shot of this, Sharon? I'll try to stay out of the way. So, you don't have to bring water to a boil to pasteurize it, to kill all the bugs in it, so you can drink it safely. If you bring water to 145 degree temperature and hold it there for 30 minutes, the water will be safe to drink. If you bring it up to 149 degrees and keep it there for 6 minutes, it'll be safe to drink. Here you see the word WAPI, and I'll get to this in a second, what that means. At 158 degrees, you only have to hold it there for a minute, and the water's safe to drink. Again, get it to a higher temperature, the time's shorter, 191 for 1 second only, to 201 degrees for only a 1/10 of a second, 204 for a 50th of a second, and for at 212, just keep it there for 1/100th of a second. So if you get it to that boiling point, it'll be safe to drink. So as the water is going through all these temperatures, you can see by the time it gets to that 212 degree Fahrenheit boiling point, the water is totally safe to drink. And this is at sea level. Now, if you're going higher in elevation, the boiling point of water actually becomes lower. So say you're in Denver, Colorado. The elevation of Denver, Colorado is about 5,000 feet above sea level. That's pretty high. Well, the boiling point of water there isn't 212 degrees. Water boils there at about 198 degrees, because the higher you go in elevation, the lower the boiling point. That's because there's less air above you holding the air in the water, and that gets into physics and all that. We won't do that now. So it's got a lower boiling point, so you have to boil it longer. The rule of thumb is boil it for a minute for every 1,000 feet you go in elevation. That's the rule of thumb. That's extremely safe. So if you're going hiking high in the mountains, you can go by that rule. Let's go back here and I'll tell you what this WAPI is. Assuming you're at sea level or around about sea level, 500 feet, even up to 1,000 feet, you can use these. This WAPI stands for a little device they came up with called a water, WA, purification indicator. If we can hold water at 158 degrees for 1 minute, our water's safe to drink. So say you're a hiker, you're going along the Appalachian Trail, and since they don't allow open fires on the Appalachian Trail, you have those canisters with a limited amount of fuel, and you need water, so you want to boil it. Well, you can take your water all the way up to 212 and drink it, but the amount of fuel it takes to get it from average temperature 72 degrees to here, and then from getting it to here to 212 is about double. So you could cut your fuel consumption in half if you could just stop it here, keep it there for a minute. But how do you know it's going to be at 158 degrees? You can take a thermometer with you and watch it and all. But they made a little device called a WAPI, and I have one here to show you. A pretty cool device. Just put this in your pack. Can you zoom in on this?
Mm-hmm.
Just keep this in your pack with you. And if you look close, it has a little, this is just a plastic tube with a little piece of wax in there. This suspends down into your water container or your pot. And you put it in there and put it on your heat and let the water heat up. Well, this wax has a specific property of melting exactly at 158 degrees. And it takes about a minute for it to melt. So this is in your pot, and as soon as all of this wax melts, and you can hold it this way, upside down, so that when all this wax melts and falls to the bottom, you know that your water's been at 158 degrees for 1 minute. So the water is safe to drink. You take this out of your boiling pot, leave it cool down, the wax re-solidifies, and it's good for the next use. You put it back in your pack, and the next time you boil water, you put it in and use it again. So this little device will indicate when your water's been at 158 degrees for 1 minute. And it'll save you fuel if you're concerned about saving fuel. Now, if you have a fire going at a campsite and fuel's not an issue, you don't need the WAPI. But if you're a backpacker, it might be a good thing to take with you. Okay, so that's boiling water. One thing I want to also mention that the clarity of the water is no indicator of if the water is safe to drink. Water can be crystal clear and it can still get you sick. Or water can be kind of murky and mucky, it could have even a smell to it, but yet there's no bugs in there to get you sick. So the only way to really test if water is safe to drink is have it chemically tested at a lab. So when you're out hiking, you're not going to have that available. So what the general rule of thumb is, always treat water as if it's going to get you sick, so always treat your water just to be on the safe side. So, let's talk about ways to naturally get water. Rainwater. Rainwater is perfectly safe to drink. You need to catch it, maybe a tarp, and catch rainwater. Now, if you're at home, you can catch it off the roof of your house, but there's been birds up there, and birds do what birds do on your roof. So if you're catching water off your roof, you're going to have to purify that with either boiling or some of these other techniques we're going to talk about in a second. But if you just catch pure rainwater, it's definitely safe to drink. Is snow safe to melt down and drink? Sure. All snow is frozen rain. So that's perfectly safe to melt and drink. Now you're probably saying, well, I've read in books that you're never supposed to eat snow. The reason they say that is not because that snow is unsafe, it's because snow is cold. And if you're hiking out there and you eat snow, you're lowering your core body temperature and it's going to put you into hypothermia quicker. So it's going to cool down your body faster. You're going to go into hypothermia, and that could cause you problems, and you could die from hypothermia. You lose your internal body heat. So it's not because it's unsafe to consume, it's because you're going to lose body heat. So snow's fine, rain's fine. You're better off though melting ice, because if you melt snow, snow is mainly air. So if you have 10 inches of snow and you melt it down for drinking water, you're only going to get 1 inch of drinking water. It's a 10-to-1 ratio. So 10 inches of snow is going to melt down to 1 inch of water. So you're better off getting 10 inches of ice, melt that, and you're going to get 10 inches of water. So you're better off if you're looking for quantity. Do we have a question?
I don't have any questions, but Melissa and James from Columbus have joined us, and
Thanks
Robbie.
for joining us again, James. And Melissa? Great.
And Robbie's on.
Robbie, thanks for joining us. If you guys have any questions about water purification or need, just come up with a crazy question that you may have heard of and wonder, shoot it out, because I'm sure if you have it, other people have the same question. So we talked about rainwater safe to drink. You can get water off the roof of your house, purified because there's birds and things up there. Another natural way, if you see a stream coming down from the mountains and it's a fast moving stream, a lot of white water, a lot of rapids, the more white water you see, that's aerating the water, that's actually purifying the water. Now this isn't a guarantee, but the more white water you see, the more likely it is safe to drink. So if you feel lucky, you can probably drink the water and not get sick. If it's very few rapids, again, more chance of getting sick. If there's just very slow running water, again, fall back on, you probably want to purify it with one of the techniques we're going to be talking about, either boiling it or one of these other techniques we're talking about. In some books, you probably saw, one way is a natural spring. Natural springs would be great to get water. A natural spring is water coming right out of the side of a hillside. I know my cousin Therese lives West Virginia. They have a lot of natural springs coming out of the side of the mountains there. If it's a true natural spring, you can drink that water, don't have to purify it. But how do you know if it's a natural spring? Very simple test. Take your hand, put your hand in the water. If that water is so cold that you can't keep your hand in that water for more than 3 or 4 seconds, that's a natural spring. Natural spring water is ice cold beyond belief. So if it's super cold, drink it, it's real spring water. Now if you put your hand in that water and it's lukewarm, that means that water up on top of that hill someplace is above ground, probably with cows walking and horses walking in it, and it just happened to go underground and come off the side of the mountain. So that water needs to be purified if it's lukewarm. But if it's ice cold, and those of you that have put your hand in true spring water, you know what I mean about ice cold, it's safe to drink. Probably heard or read in books something called a solar still. And we're going to put up a picture of the solar still up right now. It's a way that's in military manuals, all survival books. It's where you dig a hole down in the ground, you have a piece of plastic and you put it over the hole, and you put a cup in the bottom, and you have a piece of tube going down, and you do this all out in the sunlight. It has to be in a big open area. And the theory behind it is the sun beats down, goes through the clear plastic, heats the air in the hole, and that heated air causes water to condense on the underside of the plastic. That water's coming from the ground, condenses on the other side of the plastic, and there's a rock sagging the plastic down, like you see in the picture. That runs to the center, drips down into that pot that you have at the bottom, and you drink it through the straw. In theory, it works. In practical use, you might get about 4 ounces of water a day. Now, to be healthy, an adult needs a gallon of water a day to be healthy. This is a gallon of water, 128 ounces. So you need to drink this much a day, on average, to be healthy, 128 ounces. And I just said that solar still is going to give you about 4 ounces a day. And remember, you're digging this hole in the sun. The hole's got to be about 2 feet deep and about 3 feet across in the sun. You're going to sweat out more water than you're getting from that solar still. Not a great way to do water. There's one other one, and this is my favorite. It's called an Indian well. This one works. What you do, you have a body of water that's questionable. What you do is you go inland about 30 feet. You dig a hole about 2.5, 3 foot deep. And that hole naturally is going to fill up with water. Well, you scoop all the water out of that hole. That's going to fill up again. Scoop the water out the second time. It's going to fill up again. Scoop it out the third time. The fourth time it fills up, you've got all the mud and junk out of that hole. And that 30 feet of earth acted as your filter. And it purified the water coming from that pond. So the water in your hole is safe to drink. And it's going to naturally refill every time you empty it out. So that's what I use. Every 30 days, I dig another hole. So every 30 days, you got to dig 1 3-foot hole, and you have a perfectly good water source. So that's the one I use when I go out. Let's talk about now some chemical ways of purifying water. One of the easiest and least expensive, and you all have it at home, is using household bleach. And the kind of bleach you want to get is the cheapest one you can buy at the grocery store. It's just bleach, no scents added, no additives added. It's the cheapest bleach you use for your laundry. What you're going to do is you're going to take 8 drops of bleach, get an eyedropper, 8 drops per gallon. So 8 drops of this in a gallon of water. And you leave it set for 30 minutes. Now there's 2 things we have to worry about, and I'll talk about that in a second. The 2 bugs. 30 seconds for Giardia and 4 hours for Cryptosporidium. Those are the 2 things we have to worry about. So leave it sit for 4 hours. That will purify that water. That's all it takes. If you have iodine in your medicine cabinet, you take 20 drops of iodine for that gallon of water. And again, leave it sit for 4 hours. After that, the water will be safe to drink. Now you're thinking, well, what's the water going to taste like? Well, if you put 8 drops in a gallon of water, it'll have a slight smell of chlorine to it. You'll be hard-pressed to really taste it. But if you want to know what it tastes like, it'll taste like pool water. Just like if you went swimming in your neighbor's pool, that's what it'll taste like. If you want to get rid of that chlorine taste, it's easy. All you have to do is pour that water in an open bucket and leave it outside in the sun for 24 hours. That chlorine will dissipate with the sun. You people out there with a pool, what are you doing all summer? You're adding chlorine to your pool. Every week or so you have to throw more chlorine in. Why? It goes away. The sun beats on it and it dissipates in the air. Same thing will happen here. Now the water will still be purified. It'll kill everything in the water, but the chlorine will go away. So you'll be drinking chlorine-free water after that 24 hours. So that's one way to get the chlorine out. Now with the iodine, what's it going to taste like? Your water's going to have kind of a funky iodine taste. Get rid of that, it's pretty easy. You add vitamin C to it. Where do you get vitamin C? Go to the grocery store and they have these little tablets called Emergen-C. You take it and they have 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C. They're little fizzy pills you drop into water. They recommend you take it in the wintertime to support your immune system. Drop one of those pills in the gallon of water. That vitamin C will take all the iodine taste out of the water. Those are little tricks. The iodine really is not going to hurt you if you use it short term. Now if you drink this iodine water with the 20 drops in for 2 or 3 years, you might have some thyroid problems. But if you do it for a few weeks, a few months, you'll be fine. Remember, 3 days without water and you're not going to be fine. So.
I have more people who joined us.
Who joined us?
Sharon, Nathan, Adam, and Sam.
Hi Sam, Sharon, Nathan, and Adam. Welcome. We're talking water. We went through natural water, we went through rainwater and snow and solar stills and Indian wells so far. And we talked about adding bleach, 8 drops per gallon, and we talked about 20 drops per gallon of iodine. And now I just want to get into, before I get into the more modern purifiers, what are we so worried about getting sick about? And so the things we're worried about, really there's 3. There's Giardia, Cryptosporidium, and viruses and bacteria. Those are the 3 main ones. Okay, what are they? Well, Giardia, they call them cysts. They're little bugs, and they're what gets them in the water, or who gets blamed for them, are beavers. They call it beaver fever, It's caused by beavers peeing in the water. Well, it's actually caused by beavers and moose and deer and people and other things peeing in the water, but that's what gets it in there. They're called cysts, but they're little microorganisms, and they're 12 microns in size. Okay, how big is that? Well, human hair, on average, is about 40 or 50 microns across. That's what a human hair is. These Giardia little bugs are 12 microns. So they're much smaller than a human hair. So you got its size. They're pretty small. The other thing is Cryptosporidium. That's caused by animals pooping in the water and other things too. So we have Giardia, Cryptosporidium, and I got my size right. I should correct it. Giardia is 7 microns. I'm sorry. The Cryptosporidium is 12. I got it mixed up. Giardia, 7 microns. Cryptosporidium, 12. A human hair, 40. So those are the top two. And then we have viruses and bacteria. Viruses and bacteria are really tiny. They're 1/100th to 1/1000th of a micron. They're tiny. So that's what we're worried about. So let's talk about other things to filter water, and I'll get back to these sizes and all to make it clear. You have two choices when you're talking about purifying water, to buy a filter or a purifier. If you're out there trying to buy a water filter, think of this, because this is all a water filter is. It's a big screen. And the size of the mesh is what the screen's going to catch. Okay? Most screen meshes in a water filter are about, some a little bigger, some smaller. Let's say on average they're about 1 micron in size. Okay? So we have our human hair, 40 microns. Well, if that's in the water and we pour the water through with something 40 microns, this screen with a 0.1 mesh is going to catch it. That's obvious because our human hair is going to be bigger than the mesh. This is the Cryptosporidium at 12 microns. Well, we put that in the water. We pour that through with this big cyst. It's going to get caught. Obvious. Here we have Giardia at 7 microns. Will that go through the screen? No. The screen we said is 1 micron. The Giardia is 7 microns. That's all gets caught. That's fine. Problem is, right here, can you zoom in on this, Cheryl, what this is? What does that say?
I don't know that they can read it. It's bacteria.
Viruses and bacteria. They're 1/100th of a micron. You pour those through the filter. You zoom in on this?
I don't have to.
Can you see that? That's what happens to viruses and bacteria in a filter. So my point is, if you buy a filter and there's Giardia in the water, it'll catch it. If there's Cryptosporidium in the water, it'll catch it. If there's viruses and bacteria in the water, those are going to go right through, you're going to drink them, and you're going to get sick. What do I mean by get sick? What's going to happen to you? Well, the symptoms of all three of those are the same. You're going to get a stomach ache. You're going to feel like you have the flu. You're going to have diarrhea. Bad diarrhea. In fact, it's going to be so bad that when people die from Giardia or Cryptosporidium, when they get it in their system, actually they die from dehydration because you're losing more water from your bottom end than you can put in your mouth. That's how bad the diarrhea is. So, those are the effects of all three. You feel really lousy, needless to say. So it doesn't matter if you got it from virus, bacteria, crypto, or you're sick. Now again, boiling will take care of all three. Iodine will take care of all three. Bleach will take care of all three. A filter will take care of, like we said, the Giardia and Crypto, it won't take care of viruses and bacteria. So now you're thinking, well, why would I ever buy a filter? Well, viruses and bacteria aren't a real big problem in the United States, unless they are. Most places, they're not. So a lot of times hikers will just take a water purifier or a water filter that'll take care of Giardia and Cryptosporidium. And they're going to range from about $30, $40, maybe even $50. Things like the Life Straw, you're familiar with those, they're good for Giardia and Crypto. Not good for viruses and bacteria. And they usually work. Now, if you want something to take care of all three, including the viruses and bacteria, you want a water purifier. Here we go. There's a couple types you can get. A lot of people like the pump filters. Pretty simple. If you've never used a pump filter, this is a very typical one. I'm going to be very generic. They have a hose. This is your intake. You throw this in the water. It has a float because you don't want to get water from the top because viruses and bacteria like to live where the water's warm. If you haven't been in a swimming pool, right by the top, the water's nice and warm. You get down a little bit, the water's cooler. So all the viruses and bacteria, if there are some in the water, they're going to be close to the top where the water's warm. So you put the float in, so wherever you're going to get the water, it's going to be below the top. And again, you don't want it on the bottom. You're going to be catching all kind of muck and stuff you don't want there. Okay, so this is in the water. And in this pump here, it's, again, basic. You have three parts. The bottom part is your filter, just like this. This bottom part here is going to catch Cryptosporidium and Giardia. The middle part is going to be a iodine or chlorine impregnated filter. That's going to instantly kill the viruses and bacteria. That's good. But now your water's going to have a funky taste to it. Top part of the filter is a carbon filter. That takes away the bad taste. So then as you're pumping, the water's coming up through here, going through the filter. Giardia and Crypto's gone. Goes through the iodine impregnated filter. Viruses and bacteria are gone. Water tastes bad. Going through the carbon filter, the bad taste is gone. So what you're getting out of here is pure, fresh drinking water. And you're getting water, and it pumps each time. That's how these work. I'm going to, this is a good time to dispel one myth. Carbon filters do not filter water. Repeat that, carbon filters do nothing to filter water. They filter out bad taste only. They will take some heavy metals out. They'll take out some lead. If there's industrial runoff, they will take some heavy metals like mercury out. They won't do anything for Cryptosporidium, Giardia, viruses, and bacteria. So, and that's what's going to get you sick. Now, the other metals, they'll kill you long term. But in the short term, about getting sick won't do a thing. So if you think you have a carbon filter and it's going to help you, it's not.
I have a question.
What?
So Adam would like to know, how long does it take to pump a gallon? I'm assuming using that filter.
Well, this is a Iodine. This is this is metal. I like these. Most of them are plastic now. And Adam, that depends on a couple things. One is how big are the holes in this bottom filter? Now, I'm going to ask you, do you want this bottom filter to catch small particles? Then you want this filter to have very small holes in it, like 0.1 micron, really small. If these holes are small, it's going to catch really small particles, maybe even some bacteria. That's a good thing, right? Well, yeah, but with small holes, it's going to be hard as heck to pump, and you're only going to be getting a little spurt out each time. So it's going to take a long time to pump a quart of water. By long time, I mean maybe 45 seconds to a minute. Now, if you have big holes in this filter, like 2 microns, oh, it's going to be easy to pump. And you're going to get a lot of water each pump because it's not forcing it through the tiny holes. But you're also letting a lot of viruses and bacteria get through. So it's not filtering it as well. Now, the other, in this, it would kill it. But so it depends how small the filter is, depends how clean your filter is in here. Now these filters are cleanable, you can take them apart. And that's another question people ask. How long will the filter last before you need to clean it? That's a real loaded question because this filter probably lasts about 5 gallons or it could last 500 gallons. It depends. How clean is the water I'm putting in? If I lay this in the bottom of a muddy lake and start pumping water and I'm pumping sludge mud water through here, it'll last 5 gallons before this filter gets clogged. If I decide to go the extra effort, take an extra coffee filter with me and a rubber band and put a coffee filter over this and put it in so I'm pre-filtering the water before it goes through here and I'm putting real clean water through my filter, this filter in here will last 500 gallons. So you want to take the time and put really clean water through here, your filter will last a long time. If you neglect it and put dirty water through, it won't last that long. So best way, and that's what we do in our classes. When we have several different types of pump filters, we let people pump them. And some have a short throw, some have a long throw. The longer the throw, the more water that gets through. So that's kind of a tough question to ask how long it takes. There is one we sell called a HyperFlow. That pumps a lot of water quick. I don't have the numbers right off. Here's the filter here. I don't have, by MSR, we have it on our website. The numbers are on our website. I don't have them off the top of my head. And it's a nice small filter, and it does this. It's a small throw, but it pumps an awful lot of water. This is, I hate pumping water, it's just me. But it pumps a lot of water. One of our instructors, Dave Middleditch, really likes this, and he's the one that showed it to me and kind of turned me on to it. This pumps a lot of water, it's quick and small. So, but you have to look at the numbers on how much it pumps each stroke. So those are the pumps. The ones that I really like are the Steri Pens. The Steri Pen, now the downside of this, it works off batteries. But there's a real upside to this. And when we went through our survival kits, if you look through our archives, you can see I have solar rechargers and recharging batteries. This one is nice because it does Cryptosporidium, Giardia, virus, bacteria, cholera, typhoid, everything you can think of. It does 16 ounces or 12 ounces. What you do, you press this button twice, it blinks, and it works on ultraviolet light. You put it in your water, a light comes on, that light's going to stay on for about 45 minutes, goes off automatically, just stir it around. Now the water has to be semi-clear, it can't be totally murky, because this light actually is what's killing everything in here. And after the time is up, I'm going to pull it out a little bit because there's sensors, I don't want to wait 45 minutes and waste your time in here and it'll go off. The water will be totally safe to drink. I don't have to wait 30 minutes or 4 hours. Everything is safe for me to drink. I can drink the water. Now, the only other downside of this, if this water was a little greenish, when I scooped it up, it's still going to be greenish. If this water had a little smell to it, it's still going to have the smell, but it will be safe to drink. We did a survival class several years back, and the water the stagnant pond was probably the worst water I've ever had. It was one step above sanitation water, and we used all the filters, including the Steri Pen, and no one got sick, it was fine. So, like I said, looking through the water just because it's clear doesn't mean it's good, or just because it's off color or smells doesn't mean it's bad. But this is the larger one. This uses AA batteries. A lot of people like that because AA batteries are very easy to find. My personal favorite is this one. It's called the Adventurer. It fits in your pocket. Again, does everything the same as the other one. Again, you just press the button, only it's a lot smaller. It does the same thing.
James really likes his Steri Pen.
What's nice about this one, You can take it, you know, on your camping trip, but if you go to Mexico, go to China, go to India, you can also take it with you. You go to a restaurant, it'll also clean the ice cubes, because a lot of people say, okay, I'm not going to drink the water here. They're going to order a Coke, they put ice in there, and the Giardia and Cryptosporidium are in the ice, and they still get sick. So you have to be careful with that. A few other water purifiers. If you're carrying a water bottle, whoa, Cheryl, could you grab that for me? Mm-hmm. It happens when you loosen it, so you don't have to unscrew it on camera. Thank you. This is called the Grayl. If you're carrying a water bottle anyway, this is your water purifier and the water bottle. It has two parts. This is the part you scoop up the water. Here's your filter, which does do viruses, bacteria, crypto, giardia, everything. Your dirty water's in here. You put this on the ground, and then instead of pumping, you just use your body weight, lean on it, that forces the water all the way through. Open up this, and you have your fresh water in here, and just drink it or pour it into whatever you want. So this is called the Grayl water filter. It's one of the most popular ones that are selling right now. If you don't like the pumps, don't like the Steri Pens, you have to carry a water bottle anyway. This is one of the most popular ones.
So, got a comment here from Terry. Used in the past a silk scarf to pre-filter my water before boiling or using the filter, and it clears it up some. Now I use a bank bag to clear my water before boiling or filtering it. The bank bag makes it super clear.
Okay, whenever you're using something like that to clear up the water, basically you're not taking out anything that's going to get you sick. You're taking out things that are going to make the water visibly look clearer. So those are great. So you have clearer water so it doesn't look so bad. But any piece of cloth, anything like that, isn't going to do anything health-wise. If there's Giardia there and you use that, it's still going to get you sick. There's also a big misconception. If you ever read a survival book, you probably have seen a tripod set up, and they have 3 bandanas on that tripod. The top one is filled with grass. The middle tripod has sand in it, and the lower tripod has charcoal from your fire. And they call that a water filter. And people think if I pour water in the top and it goes through the grass, the sand, and the charcoal, they can catch the water and drink it safely. Now think about that, guys. I said my hair is 40 microns, and viruses and bacteria are 1/100th or 1/1000th of a micron. If I pour water through there and I have a couple blades of grass, do you think that those viruses and bacteria are going to sneak through that grass? How about some grains of sand? How about a couple handfuls of charcoal? You're right. Those are going to get right through. It's not filtering anything. All that those layers are filtering out are sticks and stones.
Yeah, I think that's why Terry is using a filter with the scarf and that.
Right. Other people say other things like, well, do I need to use iodine in the Steri Pen? Or do I need to pump my water and then boil it? I have a lot of people in my survival classes. You can do that, but it would be the same as you asking me, if I go out in the rain, do I need to use an umbrella if I'm wearing a raincoat? You can, but you're kind of doing the same thing twice. If you have an umbrella, you really don't need to put a raincoat on, and if you have a raincoat on, you really don't need the umbrella. Same thing with water purification. If you're boiling the water, it's going to kill everything. You don't need to use another method. You're just wasting your time. Any one method kills everything, and it's dead. You can't kill it twice. So if you want to, you can, but you're not doing any good.
Adam said he was really surprised about how long it takes to filter water when he took one of your classes.
Yeah, our Survival 2 class. The first 3 days of the survival 2 lessons, applications and techniques where we teach you how to field dress game and all that. We let people use different filters so they get the feel. We still have to walk to the water source and you're filtering the water and carrying it back, and that's a pain in the butt. But then the last half of the class, we're actually walking to the water source, bring it back, and boiling it. No big deal, right? Well, think about it. You wake up in the morning and you're thirsty. Well, you have to walk about a half mile to the water source, get your bucket or water, walk another half mile back. Now that's taking good 45 minutes. Now you have to go and get sticks for your fire. You have to make your fire. At that point, we're not using matches or anything. We're using a bow drill. So you're rubbing 2 sticks together, make your fire, build your fire up. Now you have to boil your water. Finally, you've got your water boiling. Great. Well, now your water is 212 degrees. It's too hot to drink. So now we have to set it aside and let your water cool down. So you have a good hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours burned up before you can even take your first drink of water. People don't realize how long it takes to do that. But you do realize that well, maybe I should do all this tonight, so in the morning, before I have to go through this whole thing, I do roll out of my little debris hut, then take a drink of water that I purified last night, and then I can do all this. So you learn how to plan ahead in that Survival 2 class a little bit. And Adam, I'm sure, remembers that very well.
He just said, oh, the memories.
But not the first time when you're thirsty for 2 hours. And yeah, well, that's part of the class. So, but yeah, that's water purification. Trying to think anything else. I know James, he's taken the classes. James, do you have any memories or anything to add to the water purification? Or does anybody else use another kind of water purifier out there? I'm always looking for something that's new or better. Like I said, I always have different ways, and my backups, my first way to purify water is the Steri Pen, and I just partial to the Adventurer because it's small. My backup to that is I carry a pot with me, so I'm going to boil my water as my backup. Or I guess my other backup, I have a filter, and then my third backup is boiling. I'll have a filter. I usually use the Sawyer. I don't have a Sawyer here, but that's the up-and-coming, if you want a small filter. Now, that does not take out viruses and bacteria. It does take the crypto and all that out. So I'm looking for one to replace the Sawyer that will take out viruses and bacteria as my backup. But I've never had a problem with the Steri Pen. And I think I'd use the Sawyer as an emergency. If my Steri Pen went out, I'd probably go right to boiling, because when you're in a real survival situation, I'd still be a little worried about this, viruses and bacteria. So I'm keeping my eye peeled for a nice small filter that would take out everything. But other than that...
Ruthie is watching.
Hi, Ruth. Thanks for joining us. We just covered water filtration, and I know fishing up in Canada, there's many a time that I took my chances and drank right out of Lake Nipissing, and I was healthy. So I'm not recommending that, but either my system, and I should say that, if you do drink out of a lake, even though there is Giardia or Cryptosporidium in the water, your system may be strong enough to overcome it. The only time you get sick is if you overwhelm your immune system and it can't cope with the amount of Giardia, Cryptosporidium, or viruses and bacteria that you ingested. So you might, drink out of water, and I might not get sick, and you might not get sick, but somebody with a weaker immune system might. And I could probably tell you whether you could survive more or less Giardia. It's a simple test. If you're on a picnic and you drop your hot dog on the ground, what are you more likely to do? Pick it up and throw it in the garbage can, or pick it up, just brush off some of the dirt and pop it in your mouth? Are you a person that drinks mainly from water bottles, or are you a person that in the summertime wouldn't think twice about picking up a garden hose and taking a drink of water? These questions I ask you because if you drink out of a garden hose, and if you're willing to pick out a hot dog off the ground, just brush off most of the dirt and eat it, that means your body has to put up with a lot of dirt, for lack of a better word, and you're building up your immune system. Rather than someone who's constantly using Purell on their hands all the time, so their hands are perfectly germ-free. The person that's always using bottled water, so their immune system doesn't have to deal with anything, or always eating perfect food. Your body, your defense system has nothing to fight. So it kind of gets relaxed and weakened. So that's my opinion. It's not a scientific analysis, but it just makes sense to me. If you're eating with dirty hands once in a while, you're actually making yourself stronger rather than weaker.
Okay, so I've got two things. I've got a question.
Okay.
And Terry mentioned she uses the Iodine water filter.
One of the best.
She has all three sizes of that.
Does she?
So here's the question. Wendy wants to know, if you go old school and boil, what's the fastest way to boil water? She means in terms of if there's something faster than just a pan. Adam has suggested he uses the jet boil system. Your thoughts?
Yes. Thank you, Wendy. Well, first of all, I think we all know you need to put a cover on the pan, pot, whatever, keep the heat in, boil a lot quicker. Secondly, you got to use the right fuel. I think in our stove video, someone asked the question, I think it was you, Wendy, what is better, alcohol or propane? And we did put up that answer. Alcohol burns at about 700 degrees, and propane burns at about 2,000 degrees. So that's why if you're using an alcohol stove, it seems to take an awful long time to boil water. You only have a 700 degree heat source, where propane, most of the canisters, are at 2,000 degrees. Now, I also mentioned, I believe in the stove video or one of the videos, there's a pot, and JetBoil has pots like that with a heat exchanger on the bottom of the pot. So you lock it in there, and what that does, when the flame comes up off the stove or off whatever, that heat exchanger, it has fins on it, and it's transferring all the heat from the flame to the bottom of the pot, which transfers it to your water. You can boil water in a minute or maybe just a little bit more than a minute. So that's saving fuel, it's boiling water quick. Now, with the jet boil system, it locks in, it's a great system, but you're limited to using the jet boil. There's a pot we have on our website. You can buy it elsewhere, but I suggest you buy it from our website. It's called the Olight XST pot. Cheryl put up a picture on YouTube. And that is a pot, and it has the fins built at the bottom. So you can use it on a alcohol stove, you can use it on your whatever stove you have, dragonfly stove, or you can use it on a wood gasification stove, or you could use it on an open fire stove. So it's kind of a generic pot with that heat exchanger on the bottom. Now, if you use that heat exchanger on the bottom, get a lid for it, that's going to be about the quick as you can use it. Also, get a windscreen around there and try to get it as tight as you can around your flame. You notice this if you use alcohol stoves, that wind will take heat away. If you have that heat exchanger on the bottom, especially with the jet boil, and I think Adam will attest to this, you can put your hands right next to where the flame is, and you'll feel very little, if any, heat. All the heat from that flame is going directly to the bottom of that pot, and that means all that heat's going directly into your water. That's the quickest transfer you're going to get.
I have another comment from Paul.
Hi, Paul. I don't think Paul had joined us. Welcome. If you did, I missed him.
So it's an interesting thing, isn't it? I've never been one for super filtering or even boiling water if water is clear and running. I've never had any problems. I think you're absolutely right in regards to strengthening the immune system with a bit of dirt now and then.
I like you, Paul. Yeah, I don't want to get arrogant about this, but I think we have something there. So, well, that's water purification. If you have any other comments, please write them in. And if you have any filters you come across or purifiers, please let me know. I'm always looking for new products, new things. Like I said, if you have something new, let me know. I want to try it, and if I like it, you know me, I'll become a dealer for it, and you'll see it on our website. So thanks for joining us, and we're going to be back in 2 weeks, and we'll have a new topic for you. So stay warm, and see you in 2 weeks.